Tucker is gone, and now we can get on with a proper democracy that functions well, where everyone accepts the results of elections, particularly now Fox has had to pay out to those brilliant Dominion machines, because no one else has ever complained about electoral fraud ever before in the history of democracy. Oh no, they always do, both sides. Hello there, you 6.4 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me on this voyage towards light and freedom. Within you now there is a great power. You must unlock it. Do not allow the detractors, the manipulators, the propagandists to dumb you down and control you. You are powerful. We are coming together to form a glorious new movement. Turn on the notification bell right now to ensure you see the fantastic content that we make every single day. It's the only way that we can keep independent voices informed by you on the air, in your minds, across all time, live on the internet every single day. Let's get into today's story about Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson's departure has predictably caused celebration in some quarters, grief in others. Let's look at the claim that Tucker Carlson's departure is connected to the ongoing voter fraud stories and the Fox payouts to Dominion, and whether or not democracy is ultimately broken now, because whoever wins the next election, whether it's Biden or whoever the Republicans put forward, do you imagine that after the result, the other party's going to go, oh well, congratulations, let's work together now to build back better or make America great again, or whatever catchphrase we've got that ultimately ends up serving powerful interests? Or do you think they'll say, you never won that election fairly, the machines are broken, I saw a hanging Chad?
Carlson's firing is somehow related to the Dominion lawsuit that was recently settled by Fox.
We can always rely on that guy's insights. He's always absolutely impartial. I'm the shiniest news reporter you ever did see. Take that, Joe Rogan.
The story that we want to cover now is the state of American democracy. For years now, the losing side generally alleges electoral fraud, dodgy voting machines, some kind of breakdown. We're at a state now that whatever the result of the election, there's only one thing you can be sure of, that the party that's in government will not fulfill the pledges that they made, and the party that loses will say that they are the victim of electoral fraud. It's been going on a lot longer than since 2020.
They fired him because of messages that were found during the discovery process. I believe there's material in those private messages that was incredibly ugly. It gave Fox a reason to remove Carlson.
So essentially, Stelter and other mainstream voices are saying that Tucker's departure is connected to Fox's fraudulent claim that the Dominion machines were faulty. Well, let's make sure then that that is not a ubiquitous and perennial lament offered forth by either party in the event they lose. In particular, I've got to say, the Democrats, who have been saying that there are rigged elections, problematic machines, problems with voting systems for a long time now. But who are you going to believe, the mainstream media or your own lying eyes? Let's have a look.
Virginia just stopped using touchscreen computer voting because it's so vulnerable.
Right.
We need to look at all the voting machines. Every Secretary of State needs to be, assisted in making sure that they are not being hacked and attacked.
I continue to think that our voting machines are too vulnerable.
Researchers have repeatedly demonstrated that ballot recording machines and other voting systems are susceptible to tampering.
So you don't like the voting machines? What about the Dominion ones?
Even hackers with limited prior knowledge, tools, and resources are able to breach voting machines in a matter of minutes.
So you see, in microcosm, democracy means we get a mandate for what we want to do anyway. In the event we lose, we complain about the system. The Republicans do it, and plainly, as you just saw, the Democrats do it. I don't think the Democrat Party are sufficiently different from the Republican Party or the right to be able to complain in this way. Loads of you think they're a lot worse. Loads of you think they're better. I'm telling you, they ain't different enough, and neither party is going to make a significant difference to your life.
In 2018, electronic voting machines in Georgia and Texas deleted votes for certain candidates or switched votes from one candidate to another.
The biggest seller of voting machines is doing something that violates Cybersecurity 101, directing that you install remote access software, which would make a machine like that a magnet for fraudsters and hackers.
These voting machines can be hacked quite easily.
So the legitimacy of elections and the results of elections is something that's been queried for a long time. Here are voices of the Democrat Party in various settings making the exact same claims. My position is different. Whether or not the voting machines work is irrelevant, because whichever party you end up voting for, that party is funded by, lobbied by, ultimately works for globally capitalist, financial, corporate interests, including the military-industrial complex, the financial industry, and the conglomerates that own media companies, and they all work together to ensure that any legislative changes that do take place don't meaningfully impact their ability to profit and generally do not allow ordinary people to democratically change their own lives.
You could easily hack into them. It makes it seem like all these states are doing different things, but in fact 3 companies are controlling this.
It is the individual voting machines that pose some of the greatest risk.
There are a lot of states that are dealing with antiquated machines, right, which are vulnerable to being hacked.
So basically they just say stuff unless they win. Unless they win, they say the problem is the machine. You don't see any more politicians going, listen, we lost fair and square, but ultimately we all love America and we want American people to succeed. So it becomes this kind of quibbling around minutiae and technicalities, ultimately because they've got nothing big to offer you anymore. Neither party is going to say, we are going to get this country and we are going to genuinely change it. And how we're going to change it is by empowering you to run your own communities. The only reason to have government at all is to protect you, yes, from potential foreign threats and to protect you from domestic and globalist corporate interests. That's what we're going to do. We're going to ensure that ordinary Americans have real power. We're going to ban lobbying. We're going to ban donations to our party. We're going to ban people in Congress owning stocks and shares in the companies that they regulate. We're going to get money right out of politics so that we can have a genuine, legitimate, democratic system. No one's going to say that. No one's offering it. They just want to quibble about the legitimacy of electoral results that ultimately, if you ask me, don't make any bloody difference anyway.
Workers were able to easily hack into an electronic voting machine. It was possible to switch votes.
43% of American voters use voting machines that researchers have found have serious security flaws, including backdoors.
Backdoors. I think that Dominion needs to look into Ron Wyden. He hates voting machines. Backdoors, they've got bad breath and stinking little dicks.
We know how vulnerable now our systems were. I know the hackathon that took place last year where virtually every machine was broken into fairly quickly.
Oh my God, all of them, they're all broken. None of them work. Dominion watching this.
I actually held a demonstration for my colleagues here at the Capitol where we brought in folks who, before our eyes, hacked election machines.
These are the same people that after Trump made the claims that the election was rigged went, that's impossible. How dare you say that? You, sir, are a disgrace to democracy and you keep causing insurrections and your hair's ridiculous and you're orange and that's all there really is to discuss. This once again shows you there are no ultimate values or principles. There's just rhetoric attached to achieving the outcomes that they would prefer to achieve that are themselves tethered to financial interests that they're personally affected by. Look at all the nepotism, look at all the stock ownership, and look at the way they legislate on the behalf of big business. Let me know in the chat in the comments if you think that the problem is rigged electoral machines or a rigged electoral system. Without our sponsors, we simply can't keep making this world-changing, earth-shattering, revolution-creating content. That's why I'm proud and pleased to tell you about this glorious product from Black Forest. If you're looking for a supplement to dramatically improve your health and longevity, you want to live forever, right? Then these 3 letters could be the answer. NMN. Not M&M, NMN. Or to use its fancy name, nicotinamide mononucleotide. A couple of capsules a day and you could be looking at improved energy, enhanced metabolism that can help reduce the risk of obesity, protection against age-associated diseases, all falling apart, getting older, revolting, increased endurance and strength. Our old friends at Big Pharma, those guys, and the FDA are trying to get a piece of the action by labeling NMN as a drug instead of a supplement. Not because of any concerns over safety or efficacy, oh no, but so they can monopolize sales and of course, as you know already, raise the prices. The scumbags. So, join the fight against Big Pharma and stay healthy. Go to blackforestsupplements.com and get 10% off this bottle of NMN by using the code RUSSELL. Now, back to the video.
I'm very concerned that you could have a hack that finally went through. You have 21 states that were hacked into. They didn't find out about it for a year.
It is worth fighting for integrity in our election system, which means that they are free from interference by a hostile or an unfriendly nation.
Like Russia, for example. No evidence of that at all. absolutely no evidence, completely cooked up media concoction in conjunction with the Democrat Party. Perhaps all of us, if we're honest, recognize that we all tend, if the outcome is favorable to our own self-interest, go, oh yeah, this is a good system. Maybe sometimes do say like, I don't like that person. Oh no, they really like you. I do like that person. We're all capable of that level of fallibility. I'm not saying actually that politicians are uniquely bad. I'm saying they're ordinarily corrupted by a corrupt system, and therefore we should change the system. We're all capable of nepotism. We're all capable of acting in self-interest. I know I'm capable of doing it. Why don't we have systems that bring to the forefront the better aspects of our nature and are reliant on congregation, the collectivism, and true democracy, rather than systems that encourage you to become self-centered, biased, just to argue for outcomes that suit you, to have no principles or values, to change your argument in order to meet the outcome that you want, as in the case of these machines. If the election results go their way, these are some of the best electoral machines we've ever... How dare you criticize those machines? This Dominion voting machine's been like a brother to you. How dare you criticize it? You lost the election, you little son of a bitch, you little Russian racist son of a fuck!
I sit on the Senate Intelligence Committee and Senate Homeland Security Committee. And we receive all kinds of information about the vulnerabilities to our national security. We are vulnerable in terms of foreign interference with our elections.
Did you see that? On the road to the White House 2020. So when they're on the way to the White House, oh my God, we could lose. The voting machines, if we do lose, they are terrible voting machines. They could be hacked by, you know, a Russian in a hat with snow in their boots, with cancer, like Putin. Bastard son of bitches. You've won the election. Those are some of the best voting machines. Look at this little guy. I love it. What a reliable voting machine. How can I stay mad at you?
There's a saying that I'm sure many of you have heard, which is the difference between being hacked and not being hacked.
Go on.
Is knowing you've been hacked.
Yeah, you know. Okay, don't do that joke again. Hillary, how do you feel about voting machines? Do you have a principled perspective on them that will not change depending on whether you win or lose an election? The opinion will stay the same, right?
There are some tax experts in Silicon Valley with whom I have met who say that, maybe what they'll do this next time is to really disrupt the actual election. Shut down the servers that you send results to. Interfere with the operation of voting machines because still too many of them are linked to the internet. So we are still very vulnerable.
Why don't they just accept that some people vote for Donald Trump because they're disillusioned with the political class? And why don't we all accept more broadly that the problem is deeply systemic and is a result of the ability of powerful deep state and corporate interest to manipulate the congressional and democratic process to the point where democracy is sort of a facade? That's the actual problem. The actual problem is they can hack the internet. There's hackers. They're only the size of a Lego man. They get in. That's not the issue, is it? This is the whole system's broken. Okay, so after the 2016 election, the Democrats said there's a problem with voting machines. But after the 2020 election, there's no problem with voting machines. What an amazing miracle. After Republican victories in 2000, 2004, and 2016, Democrats in Congress used the formal counting of electoral votes as an opportunity to challenge election results. Derek Muller, a law professor at the University of Iowa, wrote in a New York Times opinion piece in 2021. In January 2001, Representative Maxine Waters joined several other Democrats challenging George W. Bush's victory, claiming Florida's electoral votes were fraudulent. In January 2005, after Bush's re-election, Senator Barbara Boxer formally challenged Ohio's electoral vote, even though Bush won Ohio by more than 118,000 votes. Wait, let's recount that, because what they've done is that 118,000 votes could have been done by a little cyber Lego hacker that gets in the machine. Did you see the Lego movie? They're bastards. In January 2017, after Trump's victory, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee said there was the malfunction of 87 voting machines, and Representative Jim McGovern, Democrat, Massachusetts, said there were confirmed and illegal activities engaged by the government of Russia in the 2016 election. Then as now, each member of Congress was within their rights to make an objection, Mueller wrote. But the objections were naive at best, shameless at worst. Either way, the readiness of members of Congress to disenfranchise millions of Americans was disconcerting. And now there's Stacey Abrams, the Democrat who ran for governor of Georgia, who claims that Brian Kemp, the Republican who beat her 4 years ago, won under the rules of the game at the time, but the game was rigged against the voters of Georgia. Fraudulent electoral votes, malfunctioning voting machines, rigged elections. Sound familiar? Well, yeah, it does actually. It sounds like exactly what's being claimed right now. How is it different? In September 2022, the Washington Post reported Democrats have spent nearly $19 million across 8 states in primaries this year, amplifying far-right Republican candidates who have questioned or denied the validity of the 2020 election. They're willing to fund people that make those claims. In a decent, fair, moral system, you just wouldn't do that, would you? It wouldn't be about tactics and strategy. Wait a minute, I disagree with those people and what they're saying is illegal and wrong. Let's give them some money so they can say it more loudly, because I think in the long run it'll pay off, and then we'll be able to benefit from being in Congress and regulate companies that I own stocks and shares in. And that's the American way. Strategy is part of modern life. You have to understand strategy to function in the world. So having a strategy where you amplify the voices of people that make claims that the election was fraudulent seems like it could be a good strategy. But if you're simultaneously persecuting Trump for making those same claims and declaring that he oughtn't be able to run as president as a result of making those claims, then your strategy is so sort of contradictory and hypocritical that it's become unmoored from morality. And in the business of government, where you actually hold sway over the lives of ordinary people when it comes to their healthcare, their education, judiciary matters, cultural, military matters, then morality and values and principles must be the very spine, the skeleton of it. Decent values have to be present. Fallibility is inevitable, but outright hypocrisy is unacceptable. If Biden really wants to unite the country, which he doesn't, he ought at least try to do the difficult work of reaching out to the other side, which he won't. But that would be risky, since the left wing of his party isn't in any mood for making peace with Republicans, MAGA or otherwise. He talks about MAGA Republicans and how they're a threat to democracy because it's one more weapon in his political arsenal, a way he hopes to win over those crucial swing voters. As a cynical political strategy, it may work. We'll know soon enough. But please, Mr. President, spare us the sanctimony. It makes it really hard to take you seriously. The sanctimony is laid on thick. In fact, sanctimony is a significant part of their propaganda policy. We are all together. We care about the vulnerable. We've done this. We're trying to achieve that. We would have done if it wasn't for those bastards. You can't use that kind of mawkish language if ultimately you are a cynical careerist strategist who works on behalf of corporate interests. That's just plain hypocrisy. So whether or not there's electoral fraud isn't actually the issue. The system is rigged, and whoever wins the next election, and I would argue whoever it is, it ain't going to make no difference in your life, not significantly anyway. You might get some Pyrrhic victory within yourself, essentially equivalent to your sports team winning. I really do think it's that basic. What we know is the losing side will go, oh, the game was rigged, it wasn't fair, because that's what they always do. There is no morality, there are no values, there are no real principles in politics anymore, because they've set up a system that simply will not afford those type of values. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the chat and the comments. Watch either of these videos, they're both fantastic. I do love this saucy little guy. Turn on the notification bell right now. But more important than any of that stuff is that you please stay free.